Hello and welcome to the Week 6 Power Rankings for the Kwood Ballers Family Fantasy Football League. Alright, we're going to just get right to it. Make this quick, short, concise. We're going to get everyone in and we're going to get a quick look at everybody's team. So starting off with our 12th place, we have Team Maple Fever. The only fever they should really be catching is a terminal one. Team Maple Fever is run by Brandon Niederkorn, a league veteran, which is why this team is particularly concerning. He's currently ranked 9th in the league with the 10th most points for, but if you take a look at this squad, there's not much to write home about. Our shining points are Julio Jones in the receiving position, and yep, that's it. Okay, so what else does he have on the team? Tom Brady, he's okay. He's been decent, not great. Won't win you a championship. And then you have the Bears defense. If you look at these other guys, they are all either underperforming or just straight up bad. Maybe if DJ Metcalf does more push-ups, he'll be a little bit more valuable to your team. But overall, you are not in a great spot, and it's going to take a lot of luck and a lot of good trades and a lot of good pickups to get you out of the bottom four. All right, moving on. We have a team that we all expected to be 12th overall, 12th in everything. We expect him to be 12th in points for. We expected him to be 12th in the league ranking, and we expected him to be 12th in my personal rankings. But somehow he has managed to subvert those expectations. We are talking about a league veteran, never won a championship, and never will. This team, if you haven't already guessed it, Team Heller. Now, Team Heller, cleverly named after its owner, Bradley Heller, is currently ranked 10 in the league and 11th in the points for ranking. He is exactly where he should be in our league ranking, maybe even a spot or two lower. If you take a look at his team, he does have a little bit of potential, but his team just has not performed at all, and his bench depth is disgusting. We've got Matt Ryan at the quarterback, which is pretty good. Michael Thomas in the receiving slot, and you really have to admire Michael Thomas. He's been doing his best to try and pull this team up to a victory, but he's not going to be able to succeed. I don't know that it's possible. Todd Gurley is the running back. Now, it's unfortunate that Todd Gurley hasn't performed better than he has, as he's historically been a good player. But if you had been following Todd Gurley last year, you would have seen he was injury prone, and they're trying to reduce his workload so that he's better for the playoffs. So I wouldn't expect a ton out of Todd Gurley. He'll probably still be a starter every week, but don't expect top 5 numbers like you've seen in previous years. We also have Will Lutz as the kicker and Delaney Walker as the tight end. There's just not a whole lot there beyond those. All right, moving on. We don't want to spend too much time here. And I think this should be an insult to everybody in the whole league that this team even exists. We're looking at I can't even really read it because it doesn't make sense. Josh Gordon's sober brother. I can't really understand what that means, personally. Josh Gordon's sober brother. Maybe it's a mistype. Well, anyhow, this team is right where it belongs. It is league rank 11th, and it is points for rank 12. One could argue that if Parker was drunk and high, he could have picked a better team, but he did not do that, and here's what he's got. So if we take a look, he has a few good points here, a few players that could potentially pull him to a good season, but it may already be too late. So taking a look, he's got Patrick Mahomes at quarterback, Melvin Gordon in the running back slot along with James Conner. Then at the wide receiver, he has Odell Beckham Jr. Yes, he's been nothing but a disappointment this year. He does have a nice watch, though, but I don't know that's going to help him catch footballs or get Parker into a winning fantasy position. Alshon Jeffrey, and then he has pretty much trash through and through beyond that. So there's a couple players that could perform a little bit better. You're talking Melvin Gordon, James Conner, Odell Beckham, and Alshon Jeffrey. But it may be too late, and for that reason, he is number 10 in our power rankings today. All right, now we talk about the superior of the two Gordon teams. We're talking about Josh Gordon's breakout season. That is my personal team. I'm going to go ahead and start this off by making a confession to the league that I probably shouldn't have picked Josh Gordon in the 4th round. He has been a massive disappointment, coming in at an average of 8.1 points per week. I actually picked up a guy last week off the bench, Terry McLaurin, who's putting up 14.4 points a week. So just like how Parker should have most likely been drunk and high and picked a better fantasy football team, I would really appreciate it, Josh, if you would just get out the blunts, smoke a couple before the game, and really put on a stellar performance. It's nice to have you on board, but you really haven't done for me what I would have expected. With that in mind, let's do a quick run through on this squad. We've got Kevin Murray at the quarterback position. He is an above-average QB, nothing to write home about. Then you've got Leonard Fournette and Austin Eckler in the running back spots. Both pretty average right now. Eckler was a stud, but because of the emergence of Melvin Gordon, he will drop a lot of stock. You've got Keenan Allen, who is a stud wide receiver, and I think will continue to be a dominant force this year. And pretty much trash in the tight end slot, trash in the defense slot, and a good kicker. The one thing that we can't overlook too much is that I do have Saquon Barkley, but he's injured, and if he doesn't come back quick and doesn't perform quick, it might be too late for me to get into an advantageous position this season. All right, moving on to one of our former champions, and he's actually looking to make his 3rd attempt at winning a championship. He's already got one. I don't know what the second one is, or where that's coming from, but he's on part 3. So part 1, he got a championship. Part 2, unknown. Part 3 is this season, and part 3 consists of most likely not getting a championship based on this team. So, taking a quick look, most of this team's stock and position has come from really 2 players in particular, 3 players. Dak Prescott, Will Disley, I don't know, and DJ Chark Jr.? And now you're probably asking yourself, who is DJ Chark Jr.? Because that's a question I'm asking myself. But he is actually one of the better receivers right now in terms of scoring. He got 22 points the first week, 14.5 the next week, 15 the following week, 6 after that, and then most recently he got 32 points. So the guy's pretty good. He gets a lot of receptions, he gets a lot of yards. Breakout stud. But will he maintain it? That's a good question, and we're going to find out. The guy that I know won't maintain it, though, is Dak Prescott at point rank 5 right now. Even though the Cowboys are back, and they're probably the greatest team of all time, and they're probably going to go maybe 15, 20, 25 consecutive Super Bowls in a row, per what Jerry Jones has said to the press, I don't think that Dak Prescott is going to be putting up the points he's been putting up for the remainder of the season. He's averaging something like 25 points a week. That's going to drop down to probably closer to 20. And then also at the tight end spot, Will Disley is been really good, but very touchdown dependent, which is concerning for the long-term trajectory. Maybe he continues it, but if Will Disley or Dak Prescott or DJ Chark Jr. drops off, this team is in a lot of trouble. There's not a ton of solid depth on the bench, and so if any of these kind of fluky starters drops off, this team goes down real quick. Championship bound is 5th in the league rankings and 8 in the points for. So he's in a very lucky spot right now. He's gotten about 3 slots higher than where he really should be in terms of points for. So, Michael, if you are going to win this, you got to do it now. You got to get that win streak going. You got to maintain it, hold on to it, and then if all goes well, maybe you end up sliding your way into the playoffs. We'll see. All right, next up, we've got Team Johnny Manziel Rehab Assistants. They are 6th in the points for ranking. They are 4th in the league rankings, and they are 12th in the trade proposal rankings. We just got to really quickly call this out. Justin tried to make a trade for DJ Moore, the Carolina receiver, and proposed this to me. He was giving me DJ Moore, and in return, he was hoping to get Saquon Barkley. This happened this week, so this is not as though Saquon had just recently been hurt. This is whenever Saquon was already seen active in practice. So I don't know what was going on there, but I didn't accept it, and I would never accept it, and I hope that nobody would ever accept it. So 12th in those rankings, but overall 7th in the power rankings. So his team is pretty solid, mostly because of Christian McCaffrey. But he also has the tight end Austin Hooper, who has been surprisingly good, outperforming his previous seasons. We'll see if this continues. Probably not, but you never know. He might be the go-to guy for Matt Ryan now. So Gardner Minshew, Christian McCaffrey, DJ Moore. Yeah, let's go ahead and take a look at DJ Moore real quick. He got 8.5 points his first week, 12.5 points his second week, 12.5 points his third week, 5.5 points his fourth week, and 12 points his fifth week. Seems like he's worth a Saquon to me. Okay, moving on. You have Marlon Mack. You have Baker Mayfield. Overall, the team is pretty average, which is why you're ranked in a very average spot, number 7. If you win the league, I would be surprised, but it's possible. You know, literally anything can happen. So we'll see. It's possible, but it will take some luck. Okay, now we start to move into the big hitters here. We're talking team number 6 in our power rankings, all the Singletaries, our previous league second placeman, Scott. His team is 5th in the points full ranking, and he is currently ranked 3rd in the league. So why is he 6th in our power rankings? Well, the biggest concern for me is that he has a lot of players that are underperforming and not a ton of bench depth. If you look at his starters, he's got Jared Goff, Alvin Kamara, Chris Carson, Robert Woods, Calvin Ridley, Travis Kelce, Sony Michel, the Cowboys D, and Harrison Butker. Butker, I don't know. He could easily lose any given week. I don't think that his team is positioned to dominate. He does have a lot of talent, though. Travis Kelce is great. Alvin Kamara is great. Chris Carson's great. Jared Goff could be great. So if these guys perform well, he could win, but I think that he's more likely to have a bust season. That being said, it doesn't really matter all that much. He's league rank 3, so he's got a nice advantage, and he could easily roll his way into another second place position. Maybe even, just possibly, first place. Moving on to our next contender. He was our previous league champion. We're talking about the Aztec boys, Chuck DeBennon himself. I want to quick shout out, say thank you for helping host the fantasy football draft. But just because you hosted the draft does not mean you're going to be able to win the league in a back-to-back fashion. It's possible, but it doesn't guarantee it. So, he's currently 2nd in league ranking, but 4th in points for. He's been kind of lucky here. Taking a look at his team, though, he does have quite a few shining spots on this team. In particular, he may have made the best pickup of the year with the Patriots defense. The Patriots defense is averaging 18.8 points. That is more than every other player on his entire team. The Patriots are incredibly valuable. At 18.8 points, they are about 7 to 8 points ahead of any other defense. Just straight domination. So he's got the Patriots defense, Mike Evans, Devontae Adams, Derrick Henry, and Aaron Rodgers, who's... So you got about 4 dominant players, and that might just be enough to take you to a championship. It's possible. If the Patriots continue to do what they're doing, it's going to be hard to stop you. So for the rest of the league, we just need to hope that something bad happens to the Pats. Maybe they bring back Antonio Brown. Who knows? So moving on, we have Team Lay. All right, this is our 4th place in my power rankings, 3rd place in the points for, but you guessed it, last place in the league ranking. Wesley has gotten screwed this year. He is really killing it. There's not a lot to say besides he's got a great team all around. All of his positions are top 10 pretty much. You got Lamar Jackson, who's a stud. Ezekiel Elliott, who's a stud. Nick Chubb, who's a stud. Chris Godwin, who happens to be the number 1 overall receiver somehow. And it looks like he's going to continue to maintain similar levels of production. And then you got Will Fuller, who's back and doing great. He put up 46 points this most recent week. Then you got tight end. You got Greg Olsen, who's not the greatest tight end, but he's making a pretty good veteran season. Greg Zerloin, the number 1 kicker, who, as always, is dominating. Just top to bottom, this team's great, Wes. The only thing I can say is that you need to do more, I don't know, magic. You need to cast some spells. You need to sacrifice a sacrificial lamb. We might be able to sacrifice Bradley since his team's going to be last place anyhow. I'm not sure exactly what's going to happen here, but you have to get lucky. And I don't know how you do that, but that's what you need. You're doing great. Your league management is solid. Your players are good. There's just nothing to say, but you need to figure out a way to get lucky. All right, moving on. We've got in third place, 6th place in the league ranking, 9th place in points for, but 3rd place in my power rankings. We have Team We Cookin', run by Trevor Dominion. Now, this team is probably the highest potential team, I think, out of all the teams out there. You've got Jameis Winston, who started off the season slow but has been dominating. Dalvin Cook, who has been an absolute monster. Mark Ingram, who's been an absolute monster. Juju Smith-Schuster, who has been subpar but has the potential to put up the good 15 to 20 points per week. You've got Tyler Lockett, who has somehow managed to put himself as the 10th ranked receiver, averaging 13.8 per week. Some scrub named Jordan Akins on the Texans, who is not great, but has produced enough to make Trevor subpar in that position. That being said, he has Evan Ingram sitting on the bench waiting to come back. As soon as Evan Ingram is back and you've got T.Y. Hilton off of bye week, this team could arguably beat any other team out there. There's maybe one team, I think, in this league that could really dominate Trevor's team. So Trevor is ranked a lot lower in the league ranking than what he should be. I expect him to move up as the season progresses. Moving on, we've got a contender who hasn't really peeked his head into the top in quite a while, but this might be his season. After spanking Wes in the Tony and Bros League, he came back to spank him again in the Family League. This is Team Trier's Worst Nightmare, run by Austin Brass. His league ranking is 7th, but his points full ranking is number 2. If you take a look at his team, he has quite a few studs. We've got Amari Cooper, who's averaging 18.8 points a week. Deshaun Watson, who's averaging 23.8 points a week. And then you have Zach Ertz at the tight end position. You've got DeAndre Hopkins. And you also have a couple mid-tier players filling in the gaps. So the big thing here with Austin's team is that whenever Deshaun, Amari, DeAndre, and Zach Ertz perform, they can put up almost 100 points combined. Whenever they're doing that, it's hard to beat him, and everything else is the cherry on top. So we took a big investment, big risk on DeAndre Hopkins and the Texans, about Deshaun Watson and the Texans, and it's paying off so far. So if the Texans continue to produce, and then Amari Cooper continues to be Man of the Year, then he could easily win. That's a tough team to stop. But we finally move on to our number 1 position. This is a contender who's looking to make a repeat title. You might know him better by Team Lard, and that is Kendall DeBennon's team. He is number 1 in the league rankings, number 1 in the points for rankings, and number 1 in my rankings. If you look at his team, it's similar to Wes's in terms of it's good from top to bottom, except it's even better. Russell Wilson at the quarterback position, averaging almost 25 a week. David Johnson in the running back, averaging almost 16 a week. Aaron Jones at the running back position, who managed to put up more points than the whole rest of the league combined last week, with 19 carries for 107 yards and 4 touchdowns, whopping 44.5 fantasy points. So he's stacked on the running back position, but then you look at the wide receiver position, and it doesn't end there. He's got Tyler Boyd, who's averaging about 13 a week, Cooper Kupp, who's the number 3 receiver at 19, and he's got a surprising dark horse tight end, Mark Andrews, the Baltimore tight end, who is putting up a good 13 points a week. And then finally, he's got even more. If you look into his bench and his flex spot, you've got the Cortland Sutton, who's number 8 in the point rankings at 14 points per week. And just in case we find out that Antonio Brown didn't rape those girls, he's got Antonio Brown sitting on the bench. So there's a lot going on with this team. It's going to be hard to beat Kendall. He's got depth, he's got good starters, and he's got luck on his side. So You beat me by, I think, 90 points this last week, or something like 180 to 90 or 180 to 80. I got dominated. I didn't deserve to win, but I got absolutely dominated. We borderline put up the highest score the league has ever seen. It's going to be hard to beat this team. So good luck to everybody. Wes, I hope you have luck, especially seeing as your team most needs it. But for the most part, guys, we'll see what happens. I think that Team Larden might have a championship on the horizon. There's always dark horses.